In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds and galaxies danced in an eternal waltz, humanity had finally earned its place among the interstellar elite. The Galactic Council, a coalition of beings from countless worlds, had long watched Earth with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. For centuries, humans were seen as reckless children, brash, unpredictable, and prone to destruction. But that perception began to shift when Captain Rylan Cross stepped onto the galactic stage. Rylan was not your typical human soldier. He wasn't built for grand speeches or dazzling displays of heroism. Instead, he carried himself with quiet resolve, his actions speaking louder than any words ever could. Born into a modest family on Earth's moon colony Alpha 7, Rylan grew up surrounded by stories of ancient wars fought for freedom and unity. These tales shaped him, instilling a deep sense of duty and compassion that set him apart from many others in the military ranks. His commanding officers often remarked how Rylan seemed more interested in protecting lives than amassing victories, a trait both admired and occasionally questioned. The turning point came during the Battle of Zitharon IV, a conflict involving multiple alien factions vying for control over a mysterious energy source buried beneath the planet's surface. While other commanders prioritized securing the resource at all costs, Rylan defied orders and led a daring mission to evacuate innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. It was a risky move, one that nearly cost him his career, but it saved thousands of lives, earning him unexpected respect across the galaxy. When news of his bravery reached the Galactic Council, they convened an emergency session to discuss what to do with this peculiar human who valued life above power. After much debate, they decided to honor him personally, presenting Rylan with an award unlike anything given before, a companion, gifted as both a token of gratitude and a symbol of trust between species. This decision baffled some council members, but their leader, Elder Vraction, insisted it would foster understanding between humans and the rest of the universe. And so, aboard the gleaming council chamber ship hovering near Saturn's rings, Rylan found himself standing before luminous beings whose forms ranged from ethereal wisps to towering crystalline structures. They announced their gift, a tiny alien woman named Zanara, no taller than a child, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver and eyes that glowed faintly blue. She was introduced as a member of the Luminari race, known for their wisdom, empathy, and ability to form unbreakable bonds with those they chose to accompany. At first glance, Zanara appeared fragile, almost doll-like, her delicate frame draped in flowing robes that sparkled under the chamber lights. Yet there was something undeniably regal about her presence, as though she carried the weight of entire civilizations within her small form. When she stepped forward and bowed slightly to Rylan, her voice resonated softly yet powerfully. "I am honored to stand beside you, Captain Rylan Cross," she said, her words translated seamlessly through advanced technology embedded in the room. Rylan blinked, momentarily stunned. He hadn't expected this. Medals? Sure. Trophies? Maybe. But another sentient being? That felt different. Still, he managed a polite nod, masking his confusion behind years of disciplined composure. "Thank you," he replied simply, unsure of what else to say. As the ceremony concluded and the council dispersed, Rylan couldn't help but wonder why they had chosen her specifically, and why they thought pairing them together made sense. Was this some kind of test? Or perhaps a punishment disguised as praise? Either way, one thing became clear. Whether he liked it or not, Zanara was now part of his journey. And judging by the way she gazed at him, her glowing eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and determination, he suspected she might have plans of her own. Back on board the Eclipse Dawn, Rylan's personal starship, things quickly turned awkward. Zanara followed him everywhere, her diminutive size making her movements almost silent against the metallic floors. At first, Rylan tried to ignore her presence, busying himself with routine maintenance checks and tactical simulations. But Zanara wasn't content to fade into the background. She asked questions, lots of them, about everything from human history to the mechanics of hyperspace travel. Her enthusiasm bordered on overwhelming, especially when she climbed onto the navigation console to get a closer look at the holographic star charts. "Why does your species use such inefficient fuel sources?" she inquired one day, tilting her head as though the answer might be written somewhere in the air. "Luminari ships are powered entirely by quantum resonance fields." Rylan sighed, setting down his wrench. "Because we haven't figured out quantum resonance fields yet," he replied dryly. "We're still working on it." Zanara frowned thoughtfully, her shimmering skin rippling like water under sunlight. "That seems limiting. Perhaps I can assist you. My people have extensive knowledge of energy dynamics." It took every ounce of self-control not to laugh outright. Here was this pint-sized alien offering to upgrade his clunky old ship while perched precariously on the edge of his control panel. "Thanks, but I think we'll manage," he muttered, turning back to his work. Despite his initial resistance, Rylan couldn't deny that Zanara had a certain charm. Her endless curiosity reminded him of a child discovering the world for the first time, though her insights often revealed depths far beyond innocence. One evening, as they sat in the ship's observation deck watching a nebula unfold its fiery hues outside the viewport, Zanara surprised him with a question that cut straight to the heart of his existence. "Why do you fight, Rylan?" she asked softly, her voice carrying none of the playful lilt from earlier conversations. "You could have claimed glory after saving those civilians on Zitharon 4, but you didn't. Why?" He hesitated, staring at the swirling colors reflected in her glowing eyes. No one had ever asked him that. Not directly, anyway. Most assumed soldiers fought for medals, promotions, or fame. But Rylan knew better. "Because someone has to," he said finally. "If no one stands up for the little guy, then who will? Someone's got to make sure the big shots don't forget there are real lives at stake." Zanara studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, to his astonishment, she smiled, a radiant, genuine smile that lit up her entire face. "You are remarkable," she declared. "Not because of what you've done, but because of why you've done it." For once, Rylan found himself speechless. Their dynamic shifted after that conversation. Slowly but surely, Zanara began weaving herself into the fabric of Rylan's life. She started helping around the ship, fixing minor glitches in the environmental systems, and even cooking meals using ingredients scavenged from various trade ports. Her culinary experiments ranged from delightful to disastrous. Rylan still shuddered at the memory of the neon green stew, but her efforts showed a level of care that touched him deeply. Yet, despite their growing bond, moments of tension remained inevitable. One particularly heated argument erupted when Rylan refused to let Zanara accompany him on a dangerous reconnaissance mission. "It's too risky," he insisted, pacing the bridge. "I won't put you in harm's way. And I won't sit idly by while you risk yourself." Zanara shot back, her normally calm demeanor cracking under frustration. "Do you think I'm incapable of defending myself? I may be small, but I am not weak." Her words struck a nerve. Rylan stopped mid-step, turning to face her. "This isn't about strength," he said firmly. "It's about responsibility. You're my companion, my charge. I promised the council I'd keep you safe." Zanara crossed her arms, her glow dimming slightly in what Rylan guessed was irritation. "And I never agreed to be coddled. If you truly value life as much as you claim, then treat me as an equal, not a burden." The silence that followed was heavy, charged with unspoken emotions. Finally, Rylan relented, allowing her to join him under strict conditions. What he didn't anticipate was how profoundly Zanara would change the outcome of the mission, and his perspective on partnership. During the operation, they encountered a hostile faction of mercenaries holed up in an asteroid base. Things escalated quickly, forcing Rylan and Zanara to split up to cover more ground. As Rylan engaged the enemy head-on, Zanara used her agility and advanced tech to disable critical systems from behind the scenes. When the two reunited at the extraction point, bruised and breathless, Rylan couldn't help but admit she had saved his life multiple times over. "You were right," he admitted grudgingly as they escaped the crumbling base. "About being capable." Zanara smirked, though there was warmth in her gaze. "Of course I was. But don't worry, I won't hold it against you." Through shared experiences like these, their connection deepened. Rylan began noticing subtle changes in Zanara's behavior, how she lingered near him during quiet moments, how her laughter softened his hardest days, how her touch, though rare, carried a tenderness that left him unsettled. For her part, Zanara seemed equally affected, her usual poise giving way to fleeting glances and nervous gestures whenever their paths crossed unexpectedly. Neither of them spoke of it openly, but the unspoken tension hung thick in the air, pulling them closer with each passing day. Something was shifting between them, something neither fully understood or dared to name. As weeks turned into months, Rylan found himself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts of Zanara. It wasn't just her physical presence that captivated him, it was the way she saw the world, the depth of her empathy, and the fierce determination she brought to everything she did. He admired her courage, her intellect, and even her quirks, like the way she hummed strange melodies under her breath when deep in thought. Yet, for all his admiration, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was missing something important, that there was more to her attachment to him than mere companionship. One evening, as they floated through a serene nebula, Zanara approached him with an unusual request. "Teach me about Earth," she said, settling beside him on the observation deck. "Tell me what it's like." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "You want to hear about dirt and gravity?" She laughed lightly, her glow brightening. "Yes. Your home fascinates me. I want to understand what shaped you." So he told her stories, of sprawling cities bathed in neon light, of forests where leaves rustled in the wind, of oceans so vast they seemed infinite. He described sunsets that painted the sky in fiery hues and rainstorms that smelled of fresh earth. Zanara listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder, occasionally interrupting with questions that revealed her sharp mind. By the time he finished, hours had passed, and they were both smiling. But as she stood to leave, she paused, looking back at him. "Thank you, Rylan," she said softly, "for sharing your world with me." The sincerity in her voice caught him off guard, stirring emotions he hadn't realized were brewing beneath the surface. It was becoming harder to deny the truth. Zanara meant more to him than just a companion assigned by the Galactic Council. She had become a friend, a confidant, and perhaps something even deeper. Yet, as much as Rylan cared for her, doubts lingered. Could he truly reciprocate her feelings without jeopardizing their mission, or worse, risking her safety? The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him, leaving him torn between his heart and his duty. Meanwhile, Zanara wrestled with her own inner turmoil. From the moment she met Rylan, she had been drawn to his kindness, a quality rare among warriors of any species. Over time, that attraction blossomed into something far stronger. She admired his humility, his unwavering commitment to doing what was right, and the quiet strength that radiated from him even in moments of doubt. Yet, she also feared rejection. Humans were notoriously unpredictable when it came to matters of the heart, and she worried that her affections might complicate their already unconventional relationship. To distract herself, Zanara threw herself into learning about human culture, devouring books and holorecordings whenever she could. She marveled at their resilience, their capacity for love and sacrifice, and their endless pursuit of progress despite countless failures. In many ways, she envied them, their passion, their flaws, their boundless potential. And in Rylan, she saw the very best of humanity embodied. Still, uncertainty gnawed at her. Did he feel the same pull she did? Or was she merely projecting her own desires onto him? These questions haunted her, keeping her awake during the ship's artificial nights as she stared out at the endless void of space. Unbeknownst to either of them, their budding connection was about to face its greatest challenge yet. Deep within the shadowy reaches of the galaxy, whispers of rebellion stirred among disgruntled factions who opposed humanity's rising influence. To them, Rylan's alliance with Zanara symbolized everything wrong with the Galactic Council's policies, a human given undeserved favoritism, paired with one of the most revered races in existence. Determined to make a statement, they set their sights on the unlikely duo, unaware of the storm they were about to unleash. News of the impending threat reached Rylan and Zanara during a routine supply run on a remote trading outpost. A cloaked figure slipped them a data crystal containing intel about a planned ambush by a rogue syndicate known as the Void Reavers. The group, notorious for their brutal tactics and disdain for diplomacy, viewed Rylan's partnership with Zanara as an affront to galactic order. Their message was clear: break the bond or face annihilation. Rylan clenched his fists as he reviewed the encrypted files. "They're targeting us specifically," he growled, his jaw tight with anger. "This isn't just about politics, it's personal." Zanara stood beside him, her glow steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "Then we must prepare," she said firmly. "If they seek to destroy what we represent, we cannot let them succeed." Together, they devised a plan. Knowing the Reavers excelled in stealth attacks, Rylan upgraded the Eclipse Dawn's defensive systems, installing experimental shielding technology provided by Zanara's people. Meanwhile, Zanara worked tirelessly to enhance their combat readiness, teaching Rylan advanced evasion techniques and equipping him with weapons tailored to counter the Reavers' unique arsenal. Their preparation wasn't just practical, it strengthened their bond, each act of collaboration reinforcing their trust in one another. The confrontation came sooner than expected. As the Eclipse Dawn drifted near the edge of a black hole's gravitational pull, a strategic choice meant to disorient pursuers, the ship's alarms blared to life. Dozens of sleek, jagged vessels emerged from the darkness, surrounding them like predators closing in on prey. "Here we go," Rylan muttered, gripping the controls as the first wave of missiles streaked toward them. Zanara activated the shields just in time, the impact sending shockwaves through the ship. "Hold steady," she called out, her voice calm but urgent. "I'll handle the countermeasures." While Rylan maneuvered the ship through a chaotic dance of evasive twists and turns, Zanara unleashed a barrage of electromagnetic pulses, disabling several enemy crafts. Her precision was unmatched, her movements fluid and deliberate. Watching her, Rylan felt a surge of pride, and something else, something warmer and more profound. But the battle was far from over. The Reavers launched boarding pods, intent on capturing them alive. Rylan grabbed his plasma rifle, motioning for Zanara to stay behind. "No way," she snapped, already arming herself with a compact energy blade. "You're not facing this alone." Side by side, they fought their way through corridors overrun with hostile forces. The close quarters amplified the chaos, forcing them to rely entirely on instinct and teamwork. At one point, Zanara leapt onto an attacker's back, using her small size to her advantage as she disabled him with swift, precise strikes. Rylan covered her flank, taking down anyone who dared approach. Their synergy was breathtaking, a seamless blend of human grit and luminary grace. Yet, even amidst the adrenaline-fueled frenzy, moments of vulnerability surfaced. When Zanara stumbled during a skirmish, Rylan caught her arm, steadying her before turning to fire at an incoming foe. Their eyes met briefly, and in that instant, words weren't needed. Both understood the stakes, and the depth of their connection. Finally, after what felt like hours, the tide began to turn. With the majority of the Reavers neutralized, Rylan and Zanara regrouped on the bridge, battered but victorious. Outside the viewport, the remnants of the enemy fleet retreated into the void, leaving behind only silence and drifting debris. Breathing heavily, Rylan slumped into the pilot's chair, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was insane," he said, half laughing, half gasping for air. Zanara leaned against the console, her glow flickering slightly, a sign of exhaustion. "And necessary," she replied, managing a weary smile. "We proved them wrong, Rylan. Together." As the adrenaline faded, reality settled in. They had survived, yes, but the threat wasn't gone. The Void Reavers were merely pawns in a larger game, and their attack signaled a deeper division within the galaxy. For now, though, they allowed themselves a brief reprieve, savoring the hard-won victory and the undeniable truth that their partnership was stronger than ever. In the aftermath of the battle, Rylan and Zanara found themselves grappling with the emotional fallout. The intensity of the fight had stripped away any pretense, leaving raw feelings exposed. Sitting together in the dimly lit medical bay as Zanara tended to a shallow cut on Rylan's arm, neither could ignore the unspoken tension simmering between them. "You saved my life back there," Rylan said quietly, breaking the silence. "Multiple times." Zanara paused, her fingers brushing lightly against his skin. "And you saved mine," she responded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Isn't that what partners do?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and saw more than just the shimmering alien who had been thrust into his life. He saw strength, vulnerability, and a depth of emotion that mirrored his own. "Partners, huh?" he murmured, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "Feels like it's becoming something more." Her hand stilled, and she met his gaze, her glowing eyes searching his face. "Does it?" she asked, her tone cautious but hopeful. Before Rylan could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life, interrupting the moment. A familiar voice echoed through the cabin. It was Commander Varek, a high-ranking official from the Galactic Council. "Captain Cross, we've received reports of your encounter with the Void Reavers." Stand by for further instructions. Rylan groaned, leaning back in frustration. Of course they'd call now, he muttered under his breath. Zanara chuckled softly, finishing her work and stepping back. Duty calls, she said, though there was a lingering softness in her expression. We'll finish this conversation later. As they prepared to address the council's inquiry, both knew their relationship had reached a tipping point. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, whether the galaxy approved or not. The council's message brought unwelcome news. The Void Reavers were merely a splinter group of a much larger rebellion brewing in the galaxy's outer rims. This faction, calling themselves the Obsidian Accord, sought to dismantle the Galactic Council entirely, viewing its policies as oppressive and favoring weaker species, like humanity, at the expense of more powerful ones. The Council tasked Rylan and Zanara with infiltrating their stronghold on the volcanic planet Pyros 9, where they believed the Accord was planning an attack that could destabilize entire star systems. Rylan and Zanara knew this mission would be unlike anything they'd faced before. Pyros 9 was notorious for its harsh environment, with rivers of molten lava and toxic air that made survival nearly impossible without advanced protective gear. But what worried them most was the growing tension between their personal feelings and their duty. As they prepared for the journey, stolen glances and lingering touches became harder to ignore. Each moment together felt charged with unspoken emotions, yet neither dared voice their fears or desires aloud. Upon reaching Pyros 9, they discovered the Accord's base hidden within a fortress carved into the side of an active volcano. Disguised as mercenaries seeking to join their ranks, Rylan and Zanara navigated treacherous corridors filled with heavily armed guards and deadly traps. Their cover held, for a while, but when Zanara accidentally triggered a security scan, her luminary physiology set off alarms. Suddenly, they were running for their lives through collapsing tunnels and scorching heat. In the chaos, Zanara slipped and fell near a bubbling stream of magma. Rylan didn't hesitate. He leapt toward her, grabbing her hand just as the ground beneath her crumbled away. For a heart-stopping moment, they hung there, suspended over certain death. "Let me go," Zanara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Save yourself." "No," Rylan growled, his grip tightening despite the strain. "Not happening." Summoning every ounce of strength, he hauled her up, collapsing onto solid ground as the magma roared behind them. Gasping for breath, Zanara turned to him, her glowing eyes shimmering with emotion. "Why do you keep risking everything for me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because I love you," he blurted out, the words tumbling free before he could stop them. The confession hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. Zanara stared at him, stunned. Then, slowly, she smiled, a radiant, tearful smile. "And I love you," she replied, cupping his face in her hands. "I have for so long." Their tender moment was cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. With no time to dwell on their revelation, they pressed forward, determined to complete their mission. Together, they located the Accord's Central Command Center, where they discovered plans for a devastating weapon capable of obliterating entire planets. Using Zanara's technical expertise, they planted explosives to destroy the facility while Rylan created a diversion, drawing the enemy forces away. As the countdown began, they raced toward the extraction point, dodging explosions and collapsing structures. Just as they reached the surface, the fortress erupted in a fiery inferno, lighting up the night sky like a second sun. Exhausted but victorious, they collapsed onto the cool sand outside the blast zone, watching as debris rained down around them. Back aboard the Eclipse Dawn, they finally allowed themselves to process everything that had happened. Sitting side by side in the observation deck, gazing at the stars, Rylan took Zanara's hand in his. "So, what now?" he asked softly. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her glow soft and warm. "Now, we write our own story," she said. "One where we choose each other, not because of duty or obligation, but because we want to." In the years that followed their harrowing mission on Pyros 9, Rylan and Zanara's bond only grew stronger. Their love became a guiding light in their lives, transforming not just their relationship but how they approached every challenge the galaxy threw at them. Together, they continued to serve as ambassadors of peace and unity, traveling across star systems to mend rifts between warring factions and advocate for cooperation among species. Their fame spread far and wide, with tales of their bravery and their unorthodox romance, sparking inspiration across the cosmos. Humans and Luminari alike celebrated their union, seeing it as proof that even the most unlikely connections could bridge divides. The Galactic Council, once hesitant about their pairing, now hailed them as symbols of interstellar harmony. One evening, aboard the Eclipse Dawn during a quiet voyage through a glittering nebula, Ryland surprised Zanara with an unexpected question. Holding her delicate hands in his, he knelt before her, a gesture he'd learned from human tradition. "Zanara," he began, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest, "you've been my partner, my confidant, and my greatest adventure. Will you make me the happiest man in this galaxy, or any other, and marry me?" Tears welled up in Zanara's glowing eyes, her shimmering form radiating joy so brightly it seemed to illuminate the entire ship. "Yes," she whispered, pulling him into a tight embrace. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Held on a lush garden planet known for its bioluminescent flora, the ceremony brought together beings from countless worlds. Humans dressed in traditional Earth attire mingled with Luminari adorned in flowing robes that sparkled like stardust. Even Elder Vraction, leader of the Galactic Council, presided over the event, declaring their union a testament to the power of love across species. As they exchanged vows under a canopy of glowing flowers, Ryland promised to honor Zanara's wisdom and strength, while she vowed to cherish his kindness and unwavering courage. When they sealed their promises with a kiss, cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing across the verdant landscape. The years that followed were filled with happiness beyond measure. To everyone's delight, including their own, Zanara discovered she could bear children, a rare gift among Luminari due to their advanced biology. Over time, their family grew, welcoming 4 children who each carried traits of both their parents. Shimmering skin like their mother and curious, adventurous spirits like their father. Their eldest, Lyra, inherited Zanara's empathetic nature and became a diplomat, working tirelessly to resolve conflicts between planets. Kale, their spirited second child, took after Ryland's tactical mind, joining the ranks of galactic explorers. Twins Nira and Solon rounded out the family, bringing boundless energy and laughter wherever they went. Raising such a diverse brood wasn't without its challenges, but Ryland and Zanara faced them together with humor and patience. From teaching their kids about human holidays, complete with awkward attempts at baking Earth-style cakes, to introducing them to Luminari meditation rituals, their home was always alive with learning and love. Despite their differences, their family thrived as a beautiful blend of 2 cultures, proving that unity didn't mean losing individuality, it meant celebrating it. As the children grew older, Ryland and Zanara found new ways to contribute to the galaxy. They established a foundation dedicated to fostering understanding between species, offering resources and support to communities struggling with prejudice or conflict. Their work touched countless lives, cementing their legacy as peacemakers and pioneers. On the anniversary of their 25th year together, the couple stood hand in hand on the observation deck of the Eclipse Dawn, now retired and refitted as their family's personal vessel. Surrounded by stars that twinkled like old friends, they reflected on everything they'd accomplished. "You know," Ryland said, wrapping an arm around Zanara's shoulders, "when the Council gave me a tiny alien woman as a reward all those years ago, I never imagined we'd end up here." Zanara laughed softly, leaning into his embrace. "Neither did I. But I wouldn't trade this life for anything." Together, they gazed out at the endless expanse of space, knowing their journey was far from over. With their children forging their own paths and their love stronger than ever, Ryland and Zanara had built something truly extraordinary. A family that transcended galaxies, a partnership rooted in trust and devotion, and a future brighter than the stars themselves. And as their laughter echoed through the ship, mingling with the hum of engines and the soft glow of Zanara's radiant smile, they knew one thing for certain. This was their happily ever after, written not just in words, but in the hearts of everyone fortunate enough to witness it.